Now we're going to talk about not just serving the customers of the future, because that customer is here right now. And so I have the great privilege and pleasure to bring up Jackie Sargent, the general manager, the leader of Austin Energy, our host utility. Jackie, thank you so much for joining me on stage. Gil Quinones, president and CEO of the New York Power Authority, NYPA. Thank you, Gil. Sadie Felsen, who is the chief customer officer at Utegration, and Jay Castleberry, who is an industry expert and industry advisor for SAP. Thank you all so much for joining me. So, welcome. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you.
We've been talking a lot about innovation. We've been talking a lot about serving our customers. Why is it essential for utilities to create a 360-degree view of their customers, and how can utilities build that culture of innovation that leads to empowerment for the customer and the community? Jackie, I'd love to start with you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And Paula, thank you for getting the memo on what to wear, the color for today. It's fabulous. Appreciate that. You know, we have such a wide range of customers, right? We have folks like my mom, who's 86 years old, was so proud of herself when she got a flip phone, and is not moving on from that because she can do that. To my granddaughter, who knows how to play games on my son's cell phone. And because we have that technology out there, and because we have that broad range of disparity between customers and what their expectations are, for us to understand that and to understand all of those different customer demographics, it is so key for us to be reaching out to them, for them to reach out to us, and for us to have this collaborative effort that continues to bring value not only to our customers but to our community.
Thank you, Jackie. Gil, also in large public power, what is it that really moves you to help connect and understand your customers?
Well, I think what comes to mind right away is the fact that utilities will not survive like NYPA if we don't put the customer at the center of this transformation. Because otherwise we are going to be engineers and scientists and utility professionals spreading solutions, looking for problems to be solved. And so I think starting from the customer, putting the customer in the middle of this unbelievable transformation in our industry is so critical. And I like the previous session about just transitions and social equity. I think that is going to be a very important factor as we talk about transformation, to make sure that low to middle income and people of color, people who are most affected and will be most affected by climate change, are not left behind in this transformation.
Thank you, Gil. Sadie, what about the story of a 360-degree view? That's a little foreign to utilities, but it's not foreign to other industries. How has that helped transform the customer journey to lead to better results?
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about the highlights of how different our customer base is and how we need to focus on the customer. And I think we can look to what other industries are doing. My background came from more of a manufacturing CPG, and how they've been looking at customers and the segments of customers for a long time. And I think we need to take that unique environment and we need to create an experience for each of them. And in order to create that customized, that personal experience, we have to realize that every customer is different. And in order to do that, we have to look at the data and we have to have visibility of what that looks like. What are they doing holistically? What are they to us, and what does it mean to our organization? And so I think looking at leveraging that 360-degree view just enables us to be able to predict what it is that they're wanting.
Jay, you've been in the innovation business when you were at SCE, and now you're at SAP.
Talk to me a little bit about how we can innovate better for our customers. Well, I think it'll start with the idea of being very empathetic or being more empathetic with the customer and having that as the center of the use case that you're thinking through. So as you go through the problem-solving process, putting the customer at the center of that thought process to design those solutions. To innovate, I think one of the things that's really important is to have a foundation that is really solid that you can innovate on. So the foundation of an infrastructure from a culture, from assets, from technology, that platform has to be agile, has to be adaptable in order to actually be able to rapidly respond to the ever-changing needs of the customer in this very, very complex environment that we've got where they need simplicity. So the customer today demands simplicity. And so if you think about the customer, we think about making it simple and easy to use for them, we've got to have these very solid platforms to innovate on.
That's a great point, and that echoes what was said just in the panel right before, where it's sometimes when we're implementing an energy efficiency program or we're implementing renewable energy, we need to help educate our customers, but that simplicity, if we start from that perspective, it's going to be a lot easier to do that innovation. And speaking of innovation, we just saw a beautiful video. Jackie, thank you so much for all the work that Austin Energy does. You have a wonderful and well-deserved reputation for innovation, early leaders in electric vehicles, green buildings, solar, distributed energy resources, like the Shines program. We have Carl somewhere, we have Russell Shaver, who's in the back over there. What is it about the culture that you're creating and or the governance that supports that culture of innovation?
Well, I think that innovation is just in our DNA, whether it's our customers, our stakeholders, our city leaders, and certainly our employees. And I think creating an environment or allowing our employees to think outside the box and think about bigger solutions, take some risks. Sometimes things don't always work out, but if you never make a mistake, you never learn anything. I think it was Ford that said that. It creates that environment where we can be successful in an innovative way. And that way, our customers' expectations get met. They want us to be leading edge, but they also want us to be responsible and to manage affordability. And so sometimes that can be tricky to do, especially in our case where we've been early adopters of some different technologies. And as we've worked through the integration of those and the advancement, the smart thing that we've done is layered in those technologies in bite-sized chunks so that we can absorb them and manage both reliability and affordability for our customers. So I think it's really important to have that environment where people can be creative, where they can bring solutions forward. A lot of times, people want to bring a problem forward. I really encourage the employees at Austin Energy to not just bring problems forward, but to bring those solutions. And I'd like to give a shout out to my Austin team. How many Austin Energy employees do we have here? You guys are awesome. Thank you.
I think that speaks to a spirit of listening as well, and that's something I know that you value, and I've talked to Charles about this. This is something that you really emphasize in that culture. Is there, how do you make sure that you're always listening to your employees so that you're serving your customers?
We have open communications, open lines of communications. I go out and I meet with our employees on a regular basis. I'm right now in the middle of an employee tour, going around to all the locations, sitting down with them and trying to have a conversation, sharing information, but then receiving information. But creating that safe place, right? People have to feel not threatened, not intimidated, not embarrassed. So you have to have that space where people feel safe to bring their ideas forward, to have a conversation, and create that open environment.
That's a great point. Gil, NYPA is at the forefront of modernization, and you, particularly in the last 5 years, 8 years, while you have been leading NYPA, how have you kept the customer at the core of this modernization and innovation in New York?
Well, as I've said before, if you look at NYPA now, every employee has been trained on the principles of design thinking, of lean startup, of agile project management, and it's really now part of our DNA. And if you don't co-create your offerings with your customers, I think you're going to be on the wrong path. And that's just standard of how we do things right now. We co-create our solutions with our customers. If we fail fast, and we iterate and pivot and get better every day. So that's been one of I'm proud of one of the changes that we've really imbued into our culture at the Power Authority. The other thing is, 5 years ago, I think I was here, and I said that our aspiration is to be the first end-to-end digital utility. We're way in that journey. We are now transforming our entire organization, not just with our own assets, power plants, substation, transmission systems, and the customer experience, but internally. Our legal department, our HR department, our procurement, we are all digitizing our operations inside and out. On the asset side, we're streaming about 30,000 sensor points right now to monitor the health of our assets and the operation of our assets. Next year, it's going to be 150,000 sensor points being streamed real time into our integrated smart operations center. We're also building a dedicated fiber optic communication network to connect all of our assets and a wireless platform to feed into that backhaul system. So we believe that digital transformation is going to be a catalyst and an enabler to satisfying the customer's needs.
Well, speaking of that digital transformation, Jay, Sadie, how can utilities better use digital tools to make sure they're communicating with customers with a personal touch, even if that means maybe potentially not using digital channels? So if you can approach it kind of from both angles.
Well, I start by loving your data, first off. And so you got to love your energy. I say love your data.
Yeah, I do. I think it all begins with the data. There's plenty of different areas that we can leverage. There's surveys, there's experience, there's websites. There's so much data, and we're only creating more and more data every day, right? The challenge that I sometimes look at is that we have a hard time driving innovation off of the data that we maybe had 5 or 10 years ago, right? And we sometimes think around innovation and these tools and thinking so large about things that we forget that we can start with what we had 10 years ago. And we can improve just that one bit. We think about tools, and I thought of an example yesterday as I was coming here. I said, my patience level, unfortunately, has really decreased over the years. I don't know if that's just society and social media and everything else, or maybe that's my 3-year-old. But either way, the reality is that when I call in to a 1-800 number, I no longer want to provide my account number. They already have it, right? Why do I have to give you another number? And this is one source of data that we've had. We've had in our back pockets for years, but we haven't necessarily deployed it. And so as we think about innovation, yes, there's this big picture, and there's this big vision, and there is a 360-degree in all of these connected sources, but we have to start somewhere. And it could be the data that's sitting right at our fingertips.
Jay, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I would say that the solving the problem of the complexity really is fundamental in terms of actually providing the better services and the better customer experience. The ability to actually take a look at the assets that you have already within the environment doesn't necessarily require a digital platform in every situation. Separating digitization processes to digitalization transformation starts with, again, I think, from looking at the assets and the capabilities you've got within your organization and making those the best possible platforms you've got. Simple is not easy, and I think that one of the big things in terms of digital transformations, providing customer experiences at the highest level you possibly can, fundamentally comes down to people and process and the culture. The technology is definitely the enable, but you've really got to work on the disciplines associated to having that agile, transformative type of culture first, because just buying a piece of technology isn't going to make your customers happier.
And I think it's important that you practice what you preach. So when we say customer service, it's not just our external customers. I always tell the support organizations at NYPA, whether they're the legal department or procurement or customer, that they have to embody that customer service DNA also, that they serve somebody else within the organization that then serves the external customers. So, it's really that broader definition of customer service.
When I started in this industry, I actually started in customer service, and so that's a value that I have that I hold very dearly, is that we provide exceptional customer service. So we have a situation where maybe we don't do that, maybe our systems don't work properly, or maybe there's a communication or procedural error. I become very frustrated, and it's impactful to the organization. So being able to utilize technology to a certain point that it doesn't become robotic is so important. You still have to have that personal touch. You still have to have that personal connection with your customers so that they know who you are and they value the service that you provide, and that you're not just a bill that they get once a month.
That's a great point. And I'm going to turn it right back around. We're in this digital age. How in the age of social media, 24/7 connectivity, how is Austin Energy and NYPA approaching that customer outreach and engagement?
Well, there's so many different platforms, right? You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Nextdoor, you have Instagram, you have this, you have that. And it's so important to be engaged in that space because customers have the ability today to provide you with immediate feedback. And typically that only happens if it's been a poor experience, immediately on their smartphone and giving you the Yelp comment or whatever it is. So you have to be monitoring that space. We try to be very proactive and to take a different view. When we have a negative situation, we try to face that with positivity. And we look at all of the information that's out there, and we are dedicated to providing 100% responses to all of those things that we see. I never thought that I would have a Twitter account, but I do. It's just another way to reach out, and it's not just to customers, right? It's to your employees. And using those forms and using them wisely and being familiar with all of those resources that are out there is just so important today.
I also have a Twitter account. I have a cool handle, GQ Energy. The coolest handle. No, it's speed. The social media is all about speed. And it's, Jackie said, it's very hard to unring the bell. So we have to be really proactive, and we need to be resilient, not just bounce back, but bounce forward when there are during those times of challenges. It also worries me the intersection of social media and cybersecurity. When we have severe weather events, it's the perfect time for disinformation. If somebody wants to really make it more difficult, more than just restoring power, if somebody else tries to do sow disinformation while we are in some kind of an emergency situation. So it's something that we think about a lot.
That's a good point, Gil, because when we have outages like we did last night with the storms that came through, one of the things that we've deployed is a mobile outage app. And you can look real time. We have the ability, if you sign up, that we can text you that, yes, we know your power's out. And here's when we think that it's going to be restored. And we've learned that when we have a major event that we have to put a hold on those restoration times because that builds expectation. And if we say your power's going to be back on in 4 hours and it's 4 hours and 5 minutes, we have a disgruntled customer. So we want to manage that and be careful about that too. So that's been really successful. We have over 50,000 subscribers now to that. And it's just another way to reach out to our customers and let them know in real time what's going on. but most importantly, we know what's going on for you, and we're aware, and we're working on it, and we're doing something.
That's great, that real-time speed that Gil was talking about. This seems to also then present the problem of you're collecting a lot of data, whether it's data from the website, data from social interactions, data from the application on the phone. How can utilities maximize that data, optimize that data, and turn that into something useful and proactive? Sadie?
So I think it starts from first understanding it and realizing that you have it sitting there, and we have all of these outside sources, and we start talking around building and consolidating and the empowering of even more data and more data. But first understanding what that first foundation is, and then building it slowly and gradually until you can create this holistic view. You know, often when we think of innovation, it's so far-fetched, and we think of big data, and it becomes very heavy, right? It's almost like this weight on our shoulders of, I don't know what to do with it. I think the beginning is just to start. It's to start to figure out what that data means and how you can optimize it to predict where your customer's going and what it is that they need from you. You know, we talk about social media, and often we say, okay, well, they're gonna respond. But people are going to social media to either be informed of something, maybe collaborate, maybe they do want to engage and they want a response. I think we can leverage that data to empower all of that to really give their needs and to develop the experience for them.
I'd add to that, which is the combination of this real-time monitoring of the customer experience, the workforce experience, your partner's experience, combining that with the operational data and the asset data that the utilities have is becoming paramount, essentially, to the better customer experience. So, yes, you have social media and you've got your outage managed systems, but are you connecting the experiences that you're providing through those two platforms? And I think that that's going to be really kind of a key successful point for leading utilities out there, to be able to actually understand how to actually consume real-time data about the customer experiences, about their assets that they have, and how they are actually providing positive experiences. If they provide negative experiences, we know that a negative experience has 10 times the greater impact on the customer than a positive experience. And so this continuous real-time monitoring of this experience that's happening to always look for this empathetic, positive experience from their point of view is going to be critical in terms of providing additional services that they need when they essentially are, power's out, my beer's not cold, right? Whatever.
The important thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think, that speaks to this idea of digitization, digitalization that NIPA is really working on. You're trying to connect the asset, the customer.
And it's really, there are three, based on our experience, three cross-cutting principles that every organization or thinking about digitization must consider. First is your enterprise architecture. How do you architect this so that it's scalable, right? That's number one. Number two is data governance and data curation. Data is important, but you want clean data, right? And then third is the solutions development or application development approaches. So those three, in everything that we do, those are the three cross-cutting issues that we look at as we go through because you have multiple initiatives across your organization. You want to make sure that there's some commonality amongst those three items.
You know, that data governance piece is so important because there's so much information out there and people can use it in different ways.
Yeah.
And as a utility who's interfacing with customers, it's so important that the message that we give out is consistent. And so if you don't have that structure, you don't have that control of the data in a way that helps you to make sure that you're in control of the messaging, you're in, everybody's synced up and saying the same thing, that you could potentially find yourself at odds. And you're saying one thing over here, and then you're saying another thing over here, and then people look to you and say, wait a minute, you're not my single source of truth anymore. So being able to have that governance structure in place, I think, is really important.
And if I can just make a shout
Please.
out, you've got Jackie and Paula Gold-Williams at CPS, I think really leading in this smart city movement. And, we need to think about, when it comes to data governance, privacy issues. We're going to have 5G in the next few years, which is an exponential leap from 4G. Everything is going to be connected real time. And those privacy issues have to be dealt with. And we have Paula and Jackie to thank that they're pioneering in this area. And I just think that we are all for the better of it. In fact, I think the utility industry, and if I can just another shout out, amongst the Fortune 500 companies, the sector that has the most female CEOs is the utility sector.
Yeah.
And in public power, it's the same, especially the large systems. But I think that brought in a different approach to engaging the community and customers. That, I really felt that difference. I've been in this industry 26 years, probably even more. So I've seen the evolution on how utilities have engaged with communities and with customers. And I think the utility industry, by nurturing female leaders years ago, and now we're seeing the results of it, where this industry is so much better for that.
That's a great point. We're getting many more voices, and we're listening to those voices. We touched a little bit about data and social media. One of the things that Jackie, I think, was so prescient in talking about was that being a trusted single source of information, so that if somebody calls because they have an outage, they're getting the same information that they're seeing on the app, on social media, wherever they go. It's not 2 hours till restoration on the app and 4 hours till restoration on the phone. How can we make sure that that's happening? Sadie, Jay, any thoughts on how we achieve that goal?
Well, Gil hit on it, which is to really have a strong architectural, right? So, and to not allow this sprawl of basically different types of systems out there that creates this potential for disparate data that doesn't link up, that actually, it says you've got outage management system says this substation's out, but your customer call system that they're keeping in an Excel spreadsheet that says, no, I think it's up, right? But I think it really does start with a solid architecture to understand that says, what are the key systems that need to be in place? How do we actually keep them synchronized? How do you govern these things? And then learn from it from the standpoint that says, make sure that the continuous processes are in the hands of the field workers, closer to the data. They'll tell you if it's right or wrong. And I think that that's really the key. It's not going to happen from a steering committee, like senior level executive governance structure. Really, it's going to happen with your field workers. It's like those are people that are going to really keep your data clean and be able to actually keep these systems in sync. But I do think it starts from an architecture that gives them the platforms to say that this is the way that you're going to actually run. We're going to run our operations.
Right. And I would add to that, you build on this platform and you build on the data governance and making sure that everything's in sync. But the reality is that if you don't push the information, if you're not informing proactively to the public, to our customers, they will create their own story, right? I mean, we have wonderful imaginations. We as humans have wonderful imaginations, and we are no longer scared to use them, and we are not afraid of posting them and calling them true. And so making sure that we're monitoring what's happening and proactive about, hey, I'm not gonna wait for you to ask the question, I'm going to tell you. And that way that's the story of truth to help guide them through.
In that spirit of, overactive imaginations, and this was touched on briefly earlier, but how can we help prevent some scams from happening? How can we protect our customers, both the customer data and then be that trusted source to let them know that this is truth, this is somebody trying to take advantage of you?
You know, that is a scary aspect of all of this. We have scams that happen on a regular basis, and it's important that we have messaging that we get out to our customer base. People call up, you have a business, right? It's maybe just a small couple people running this shop, and a scammer calls up and says, I need you to get me a gift card, and if you don't get it to me within the next hour, your power's going to be shut off. They act like they're the phone or the utility company. They have found ways to mimic your phone number so it actually looks like a number that your customer would see, and just being very, very proactive. So when we see those things start to hit, we are out there and we are communicating with our customers. We have a 311 call center within the city of Austin, and we utilize those folks. They have information so that we can get that out through all different channels, our social media and all of that. And we work with the news stations and radio and every way that we can to communicate that out. It's unfortunate that there are so many bad actors who want to prey on people, and that they put the knowledge and skills that they have to such misuse and such misguided, nefarious behavior. But it's real. It's a threat. It's a threat to our reputation as a utility. We participate in Utilities United Against Scams. It's a coalition of utilities across the country. And so we're watching. We get information, real-time information when things are happening. We look for the patterns, and we formulate our communication around that. And we actually have a video that we'd like to show with y'all. I think they have that teed up.
Hello?
Your bills are past due. Say bye-bye to your electricity.
No. I thought I paid.
I would never ask you for your credit card number or your bank account information. I would never ask you to go buy a gift card or a prepaid debit card.
And I never asked you to pay with Bitcoin.
What is Bitcoin?
It's a type of cryptocurrency. We don't even accept that as a form of payment anyway.
Oh, and that time that Burt Reynolds called demanding payment? That wasn't us either.
No, Smokey and the Bandit called.
Yeah, that bandit.
I would never call you and demand immediate payment to avoid shutoff. But what you will see from us is, if you have questions about your account, please feel free to call us, or you can visit your account online at the link below.
Make sure you don't give the scammer any personal information, and then call 311 to report it to me.
Or me, and if you're able to get the scam caller's number, that's even better. We'll report it to APD and the City of Austin Utilities.
Don't fall for the call. Help us stop scams.
Our communications group work with our employees. Those are all Austin Energy employees, no actors. And I think they did a great job. I want to give them another shout out.
Good job.
Gil, do you have anything that you
No,
want?
I think Jackie said it all.
It's hard to follow that, isn't it?
It's,
Smokey
you
and
know,
the
there
Bandit.
are always going to be people who are going to try and take advantage. I mentioned also, I'm worried actually about a more, targeted, maybe nation state, trying to sow disinformation during emergencies, because that can have a much bigger impact to our customers and our communities. So we just really need to be vigilant. It's a risk management activity that's never ending, right? So just like cybersecurity.
Anything to add on that from either one of you?
I'll just add on to Gil in terms of from a cybersecurity perspective, and you tie that to the relationship with the customer and the brands that the utilities have. Utilities have incredible values with like great brand recognition that are out there. The threat in the digital world with cybersecurity can tear that brand down very rapidly. faster than probably anything. And so I think that it is something that, as thought leaders, is to embrace the digital era that's basically that we're living in, but embed security thought processes in everything that you do to protect the data of the customer, to protect the brand of the utility.
Great point. As we are protecting that brand, creating that brand, a personal touch is crucial. Gil, how has NYPA used data to communicate with your customers more effectively?
Well, we now have as I've said, we're trying to digitize those various customer journeys and customer touches that we have. That's getting enhanced over time. But as Jackie mentioned, there is also no substitute for pressing flesh and meeting customers directly and meeting your employees directly. Just like Jackie, I have a goal of having breakfast with all of our employees. I do it 25 at a time, but that's been my quest, and because I get direct feedback. Same thing with our customers. We go to our communities as leaders of utilities. We go to our customers, we go to our utilities and want to hear from them directly, and we do it as often as possible. And I think that's just, you just got to continue doing that.
That's great. How crucial is that personal touch for Austin Energy?
I think it's even more important today than it has been in the past, because it's so easy for people to communicate with electronic media and take the personal touch out of that. And unfortunately, we see that in a number of our legislators and the people leading our country. And unfortunately, that personal touch is removed from that, and the tone and inflection isn't there. So being able to balance that, the right means for using digital media, but then also having that personal connection, whether that's through outreach or making sure that you have a live body on the other end of the phone. We're very proud of the fact that we have a local call center. We man that with local people that live here in the community. That's not a call to another country or somewhere else, or just to a computerized system. So having that personal touch, making sure that you have that connection, make sure that you are able to provide that in different levels of media is so important, because people are going to look for that in different ways, especially today. We have a very engaged community. We have the University of Texas here. We have a very educated community. We have a very active stakeholder involvement. We have to go in front of our city council for approvals, and those are open meetings, and people can come and speak on any item. So we have to have that connection with the people, and we have to understand what their concerns are.
And as we understand those concerns, that almost brings us full circle, that 360-degree view. Not every customer is going to want to have the digital interaction. How can we use data to make sure that we're communicating with the customer in the channel of choice with the right message at the right time?
Right. I think you talk about the human touch and how powerful that is. And I think that the more that we engage with people, the more we're looking for a purposeful conversation, and one that highlights exactly what it is that I'm looking for and what I'm interested in. And we want the empathy, we want the sincerity with that, we want the loyalty that drives all of that. Having the 360-degree view fuels you to better serve that customer and have that conversation. You can tailor your message, you can adjust how you may have that conversation, but it changes the aspect of, let me ask you what it is that I can do to help you, to the, hey, I see you looking in this particular area. I think I can help you with your bill. I see that it was a little high. And so you can predict where they're going for and where they're headed, and you can make sure that you have a direct purpose for that immediate, instantaneous gratification, that high impact, that not so patient person.
An individual customer journey right there.
Yes. Yes.
Jay, anything to add to that?
I would say that we are all kind of going through this, learning this new world that we're in from a utility standpoint. Look to other industries that have gone through this disruption, learn from, expanding the point of view from the diversity of the thoughts that are out there. So I do appreciate the Energy Thought Summit, but I would just throw that out there that I do think that look at the other industries that have been going through similar disruptions and learn from that.
Did you want to chime in on that?
I did, because I highlighted I'm fairly new to utilities, so I don't have the 26 years in utilities. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah,
but coming from manufacturing, distribution, and seeing how other industries operate, 12 months ago, I wouldn't have sat on this panel and thought about the innovation and what the industry and what energy and what is really happening within this industry. 12 months ago, it would have been a commodity, right? As long as my beer stays cold and my shower stays warm and my lights are on, I'm good. If there's no problem, I'm not going to worry about it. However, I think we have to sit back and really self-reflect and say, wow, we are doing some incredible things here. And we talk about innovation, and yes, we can all get better. We're moving in that direction. I think we have to be very proud in what it is that we are doing and what is happening. And as we talk around looking into other industries, I would really encourage everybody, let's educate everybody and let's educate the society and all of the cities that we live in what it is that we're doing today. Because I don't think that they realize how much love we have for the energy and how much purpose and innovation we really are driving. And I think it's incredible in what we're doing. So I appreciate what this forum brings.
Well said, and that really kind of tees up this last thought. We were the innovators of the 19th century, and even coming out of World War II. This is how we started this conference, talking about the electrification movements. But we have the opportunity to reclaim that mantle of innovation. How can we make sure that we tell that story? How's Austin Energy, how's NYPA telling that story of being great innovators of the 21st century? Jackie?
Well, we have to use a number of different channels, right? We have to use video, we have to use different messaging, but we have to be out in our community. And I think one of the things that Austin Energy does and does very well is that we promote a number of community events where we have fairs for people that are underserved and need extra support and help, and we partner with partnering agencies, and we bring the value and the things that we can do for our customers to the community. We sponsor the Austin Energy Regional Science Fest, and we promote STEM learning, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we promote that that's important, and we bring in interns and we educate them, and those people go out. But you know what? The most important ambassador that we have is our employees. And they have to help us to tell our story, and they have to have the information and the resources to be able to tell our story in a meaningful way that connects with their families, with their neighbors, and the other associates that they have. And then you have to have your leadership to be ambassadors. And we have to be involved in the community, whether it's on boards or commissions or whatever, and making sure that we're sharing that information. Austin has a group called the Austin Area Research Organization, and they really focus on bringing different groups of industry together, and nonprofits and others, so that stories can be told. So finding forums like that, using all of those different platforms, but then having that consistency in the message, I think is really important, so you define yourself as somebody special in the community.
We talked about purpose, mission. Gil, what's your thought?
You know, all of us in the energy space, it's basically public service. And there is no profession more noble than public service, especially when done right. Because what we do day in and day out impacts people's lives. And so whether it's economic development, whether it's quality of life, whether now climate change, battling climate change, we are privileged to be in this sector and to be able to work right at those challenges for our customers in our community. So, it's such a moment in time that we've been given this gift of being able to help others.
I've been in this industry now over 31 years, which seems incredibly impossible.
Started at 12.
Yeah. And I have seen significant change. My husband was at the utility that I started my career with, and he was the first person to get a desktop computer, his own PC in his office. And he was like, sure, I'll take it, because everyone else was afraid of that technology. So seeing those things evolve and having the opportunity to work in power plants and see how the control systems from the old agostats and rheostat timers and electromechanical relays evolving to digital systems and control systems that you can have a touch screen to operate and hit a button and start a power plant. It's been incredible and an amazing journey, but we're on the cusp of it. And so having this type of forum where we can share that information, because it's going to take collaboration. None of us can do it by ourselves. So I'm grateful for the partnership, for the folks in the utility industry where we work together, Arlen, Paul, Gil, everybody in the Large Public Power Council and other areas. So that collaboration piece is just going to be what carries us forward in the future.
What a great way to end this panel. A fantastic discussion. We could probably talk for quite a bit longer, but we'll spare you all of that. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and your vision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, thank you.
Thank you.